Very good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Jim, film it.
I'm Diane Sawyer. I knew you probably but do not recognize me but this is really the way I look before the hair man and the makeup man gets hold of me. We are so glad to have you today because I have the privilege of interviewing a very special man. Thank you so much for being a part of this celebration and coming into this gentleman's home. He is a wonderful person. He's known by many names. Some people call him Charles, Charlie Boy, Darling, Papa, Dad, and Big Guy. Anyway, tonight my plans were to ask him pertinent questions and let him answer it. But you know what? He got ahead of the game, and he's got his speech all made out. So I, as Diane Sawyer, who is very sensitive to the needs of other people and want everyone to feel at home, have decided to bow out and let the man in the show take over. I have one thing I want to ask him to do before he gets into his speech. His speech, when I was going to have it, was not pre-read. It was all off the cuff. But he's got a different idea. But before Daddy or Papa or Big Guy gets started, I'm going to ask him to please tell these people just this much about your father. The fact of what he did for a living and why he almost had his license taken away. You and y'all know that story?
Ooh, no.
License.
Okay. Sit up and take notice. And now, ta-da! Here is Big Guy. Oh, Jim, okay.
Could he sit in your seat?
Mom, you look good as a blonde.
Yes, she does.
I'm not Mom. I'm what's her name?
You're Diane.
Don't forget, you're going to tell us about your father, what he did for a living, and why he almost got his license taken away.
Well, first of all, let me say that you're probably surprised to be here to my 90th birthday. You ain't seen nothing. I'm more surprised you are.
I'm not surprised.
Ever in my life expected to live to be 90 years old. I'm happy that I did. But some of the best years of my life have resulted in the last even 10 or 15 years. But I thank the Lord that He saw fit to bring me this far. I've had what some people say, a heck of a life. And I thought, I've never done this before, but I thought this may be the last time most of you would ever find out some of the things about me that I'm about to tell you. I thought I would give you a capsule of what my life was like, because you probably don't know many people that live to be 90 years old. But anyway.
Your daddy first, your daddy.
My father was a dentist, and he was a very fine fellow. I loved him very much. He was one of the finest fathers you could have. But we went through a period in the old Depression back in the late 1920s, and he would go to the office, and he said he'd sit there with his right leg over his left knee all morning. In the afternoon, he'd cross the other way. And that was it. And he'd come home bringing chickens and groceries and all types of things from the farm. People didn't have the money. They didn't have the money. They paid him by bringing vegetables or whatever, and that was okay. He did the best he could. But finally, about 1930, it got so bad that he had to go back on active duty with the Army. He was an Army captain. And he went back on active duty. He was a reservist, and he went back on active duty because, frankly, things were so bad that we couldn't make it. And my mother got a job in the post office as assistant postmaster because the postmaster was a good friend of the family. And that's the way we made it. Then the war ended, and all of a sudden, my father was the only dentist in a county of about 9,000 people, only dentist. He couldn't keep up with it. He had more business than he could handle. He worked 12 hours a day, every day, Saturday included, and sometimes on Sunday, to take care of people. They'd come to him with a head with a toothache. He'd do whatever he had to do. Many a night we'd be awakened to somebody knocking on the door at 2 in the morning. Go to the door. Doc, I sure got a bad toothache. Okay. He'd dress. He'd go take care of it. It was just that kind of thing. Of course, after the war and after things began to pick up, it was good. He was a dentist, probably one of the busiest dentists in Georgia. And he tried to keep up with it for his patients. And of course, the family prospered. We did very, very well. But anyway, he was a great father. And I'll tell you one of the things that he did. He had bought a 10-acre, we call it a farm, out the edge of town. And he told me, he said, Charles, I want you to go out there, I'm going to give you some corn. I want you to plant this corn. And here's a little space where it's been plowed. Yes, sir, okay. So I went out there, and when he got home, he went out there and looked, and he said, Charles, the corn's in a circle. He said, I have never planted corn in a circle. Well, he knew, and he laughed about it. But he was the kind of dad that accepted what it was.
But why did he have his license almost taken away?
He had his license taken away because the state of Georgia, the dentist had I forget what you call it, but they had a association. And they tried to require that every dentist use the same
Pay scale.
scale for their services all over the state. Well, we lived in a poor county, and my dad said, I can't charge these people. I cannot make charges the way they make them in Atlanta, Columbus. I charge them what I think they can pay. So one day, some guys came in and walked in and said, Dr. Watkins, we came to check your practice here. We understand that you are not using state-approved methods of billing. He said, I bill what I think they can afford to pay. He said, you can't do that. That's against the law, against our laws. And Dad said, well, I'm not a member of the Dentist Association. He said, that's all right. We control the whole state. He said, all right. So they went out and took down, Dad had a sign up. He had a house where he practiced. They took the sign down. Dad told them goodbye, and as soon as they hit the city limits, he put the sign back up. Went right on. And about a year later, they came back again, and he said, I want to tell you guys, you don't know what you're doing, and I'm not ever going to fall in line with what you want to do because people can't afford it. Now do what you have to do. He never heard from him again. That was just kind of
Amazing. I never heard that.
Now I'll give you a little oversight of my life, because I say this is the first time I've ever done this, maybe the last time I'll ever do it. But I had in my early life, probably age 12, there were 4 things that I made up my mind I wanted to do. I said, this is what I'm going to do. When I was to make a career of baseball, I loved baseball. My dad played baseball. He was a catcher, bought me a catcher's mitt, and I decided I wanted to be a baseball player. I did. I played high school, college, semi-pro baseball. Would have made it in the pros, we felt, because I hurt my right arm. Had to go to second base. Played second base for about 3.5 years in the league, semi-pro. Led the league in hitting 2 years. Hit over 400 2 years. Loved it. I would have liked to have been a baseball player all my life, but I knew that was not going to last. So I had to get into other things. And then one of my other stated choices were the four things. Was I wanted to be a Navy officer. For some reason, the few Navy officers that I'd ever met, sailors and whatnot, appealed to me. I wanted to be a Navy officer. Well, that became real. I became a Navy officer when Navy, they called me up to be drafted, and I beat them to it. I joined the Navy. I was sent to a Navy school, got my commission as an ensign, shipped out aboard a ship in the Pacific.
May I
served-
stop you there 1 minute?
Yeah.
He was selected to go to the V-12 program.
Yeah.
And you all probably don't know what V-12 is, but it's the top, physically and mentally, of the men in the Navy. It was a very big honor that he was selected to be in V-12. Take it.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway.
It is true.
I made it, and I got my commission in the Navy. I wanted to be a flyer. I wanted to be a Navy aviator. But unfortunately, I never made that because I took malaria. I went on a fishing trip, caught malaria, and I couldn't make it to pass the pilot's test. But after a couple of months, I was able to pass it as a Navy officer. So I went on in. And they told me, they said, well, if you serve some time as a regular Navy, your eyes should have cleared up by then, and you could go ahead and transfer into the Navy Air Corps. Well, I was assigned to a ship, and I liked the captain of the ship. I liked the other officers. I was an attack boat division officer. I had 4 attack boats. You've probably seen those little boats that go into the shore, drop the ramp, and run out into the enemy. And that's what I ended up in. I was an attack boat officer. Stayed in, went to the war, shipped out to the Pacific immediately. I didn't have any time to do anything. We went through the Panama Canal, went straight out to the Pacific, went to Pearl Harbor to Manila, right on up into the main where the fighting was going on. That tickled me to death. I always thought, boy, I wanted to get into fighting. That's what I like to do. I like to fight the Japanese. And it didn't take me long to realize I was pretty stupid to want to get into that. Because I was in it. I was in it when our ship shot down a Japanese suicide plane, which crashed into the side of the ship. It exploded and came within about 12 inches of exploding a whole arsenal of shells, which would have sunk the ship. Well, we went through that, and at Okinawa, at Karamaretta, we were attacked by 3 other Japanese planes. They were using Japanese suicide planes then. And the ship ahead of us, which was a senior ship in the harbor, got hit by a suicide plane, went right over us and hit that plane, that ship. Killed 35 officers on it, and 35 men on that ship. So we went through that part of the war, and we had some very close calls. Then we thought, well, we made it through that now, things are going to get a lot better. So they shipped us down to Manila, and from there, we were out in an area where we were alone in the ship, and we got into a high seas. It was like a, not a tornado, but the seas, and people have a hard time believing this, but the seas, the waves were 80 feet high. Waves were 80 feet. And we had a good captain. He directed the ship, and what you do when you have waves like that, you hit them at an angle. We were on a ship with 320 men, and the ship was 430 feet long. We got into that thing, and when we did, for some reason, we got turned, and the ship was broadside to probably 80, 90-foot wave. And one of them hit our ship, and it turned exactly 90 degrees. When it did, everything we had in the ship was falling out on the decks, and everything was going haywire. We didn't know what, we were holding on, wondering what was going to happen. And when it got right exactly 90 degrees, we knew if it went the other way, we were all gone. There was not another ship anywhere in the area. We would have all been drowned, saved. I mean, killed. But it hung there just probably for seconds. We were holding our breath. About 300 men were holding their breath. And it went back. And when it righted itself, we survived it. So we got through all of that. We came back, and then I got a job with a national company, and my main concern was flying. I always wanted to fly.